What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another week previewing these fantastic and often very volatile NFL games. It is NFL Week 14 that we are talking about on today's show, and we are joined, as always, by Lou Finicaro, my buddy. You can follow him at Gamblu on X, or check him out at gamblu.com to see more of his sports investing pursuits. My name is Chris Farley. You can follow me at Farley Bets on X. If you do follow me, you'll probably notice that I did mention it on the show in previous weeks. So I appreciate all the kind thoughts and sentiments from the audience. We did well in the circuit contest third quarter, that's for sure. So we are heading into the rest of the NFL season feeling good, but we have more to go, Lou. We have 5 more weeks of the NFL season, and things are getting very interesting as the playoff picture is coming into shape here, Lou. How was your Week 13?
Well, the playoff picture is coming into focus. Week 13, before I get to it, let's just back up a little bit and observe that your record was what in the contest that you won the quarterly?
It was 19-1 over 4 weeks.
19-1 over 4 weeks. That's pretty doggone good. So we're not going to glaze over that too much. It's nice that you're humble and not dwelling on I did this and I did that, but that's a heck of an accomplishment. And it's only an accomplishment if you got the Skajunis to have entered the contest and throw yourself in there, something I don't do. So congratulations. I'm tickled for you. You're going to keep doing it now because you got some entry fee in your back pocket.
Absolutely.
So way to go. How did I do? Well, 2 weeks ago, I came out, I was on fire. I had hit a middle on Monday night and everything was rolling crazy. And just exactly the same thing was happening this past week when I was hitting a middle until I wasn't hitting a middle in the Cleveland game. And that thing turned sideways on me. And so that's a long way of saying instead of like a 4-1 week, it was a 3-2 week. And so it could have been a lot better, but we're matriculating we're matriculating our way into profit each week, rolling into the playoffs. Each week I'm trying to limit the amount of bets and maybe concentrate more on playoff kind of bets. Like last week, Atlanta Chargers, that was a game that was important to both teams and a game that I had released on the Atlanta side. Now, going back to your contest, did you use the Chargers in your contest pick?
I did not use the Chargers in my contest pick because I respected that little sandwich spot and watching that game, right? The Chargers were very fortunate to win that game. I mean, total yards were dominated by the Falcons, right? But Kirk Cousins, I didn't like him against that defense, and that certainly.
But had you released it, did you use it as a release? Okay, you did, because my point there is something that's really, really important. You have to lose your own money. Here's another Louis-ism. Lose your own dadgum money. When I was young in this business, I went and sat with a table, a bunch of wise guys, and they were talking about a Monday night game. I knew the Packers were going to beat the Bears that night. This is 45 years ago. I'm young. And we sat there, and each guy sat around the table and told why the Bears that were going to win. The Bears. The skinny guy said it. The fat guy said it. The cigar smoker said it. Everybody said it. When it came to me, I let it influence me, and I didn't say that I liked the Packers. I just said the Bears because all those guys were smart, and I lost. And it was right then and there I decided at that point in time, I'm going to lose my own money. I'm going to go down with my own positions. And for you to stick to your guns and stick to that side means you trust your process and handicap. And once we can get there, that's a foundation that you can really build from.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I so agree with you because when I was first in this industry, I would put out plays and I would act very confident about those plays. But sometimes I didn't bet those plays, right? Because you're just kind of, at certain points, you're like almost like a content creator more than a bettor on some of these shows when you start getting in the industry. And that's a mistake. You unless you're willing to do it yourself, why are you giving out these plays, right? Why are you providing any insight or confidence in those plays? Last week was very just about the contest quickly too. Of course, there's hard work that goes into it. I like to think I have a keen mind for this as well. Lou, there's about 3 or 4 spots that I remember. We're talking about an elbow from a touchdown between the Broncos and the Raiders that kept me covering in the game in week 12. Crazy things in the Jaguars game. Mac Jones coming back 2 touchdowns to cover there and a 2-point conversion. So there is a bit of luck and circumstance that happens in these situations too. You put yourself in the best position, and that's why we can't get too emotional, right? Because especially in a game like the NFL, these are inches. These are catches being made by one hand or one finger in some instances. You can't predict all of these things. You can try. So that's where the gratefulness has to come in, and the non-emotional side of it, as I've learned from guys like you in Las Vegas, Chris, and others. But yeah, I used to be very different about that, Lou. I used to think that I could predict and I could have an edge even on all those volatile intangibles, and you really can't.
I'd rather be lucky than good.
We'll go forward with that. I love that one because I am feeling very lucky and very fortunate today, but I appreciate the kind words, Lou. And certainly this show has been a huge part of my process every week. So grateful to this show on Clubhouse TV here at sportsbet.io. And we will get to the first game of week 14, which should be a banger, Lou. We got the Green Bay Packers going to the Detroit Lions. Both have a week of rest heading into this one after the Thanksgiving games. The line was at 3.5. It is still at 3.5 at most books, but we're seeing some threes pop up now as the line shifts a little bit in favor of the Green Bay Packers. Total on this one is 51, so expecting a lot of scoring. Of course, I remember last Thanksgiving when Jordan Love waltzed into Detroit. Everyone was on the Detroit train, and Jordan Love gave that defense a nice slice of humble pie. On the one hand, I think that the Lions are going to have kind of a revenge perspective from that happening a year ago. On the other hand, Lou, injuries are starting to add up a little bit for Detroit. I like what the Packers are doing. At 3.5, I could only take the Packers, and that will be the play that I talk about on today's show. I'm going to go with the Pack at plus 3.5. That's going to be an official pick for me this week. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I like the game. I mean, you're looking at 2 teams, 2 playoff teams. This is a playoff kind of game. Now you sprinkle a little bit of division hatred and familiarity onto it, and especially what happened last year. So each team wants to really bamboozle the other, for lack of a better word. A look-ahead line on this game was Detroit 6. Now Detroit's 3.5. Huge reaction to Detroit injury and Green Bay effectiveness. I mean, really drafting real quiet behind Detroit, which is unusual because of all teams Detroit, is Minnesota and Green Bay, a 9-2 and an 8-3, quiet as they could possibly be, tiptoeing down the hallway, and nobody even sees them or hears them. And I think they both need to be regarded. And so, to me, I don't know. I gotta check injuries and such, and I checked it before we went on here. They're not even available yet on this game for Thursday, let alone the Sunday games, and that's part of the peril that we play, trying to be on so early. I don't have a strong feel to the game in any direction. I would like to find a way to play Detroit. If that thing gets to 3, and I sense Detroit is somewhat healthy, then maybe that's where I would go. I make the line myself a 3, so not a huge amount of advantage.
Yeah, I make it a 3-2. I think the things pushing me over the edge a little bit are the fact that the Lions went into Green Bay earlier this year and won. And also I do think the injuries are starting to matter. We're talking about Taylor Decker, offensive lineman, a very good offensive lineman who should be out for this game now for the Lions. Several injuries on their defense. And, we see iterations of these two teams, and both of these two teams have kind of been building at the same pace. I would think Detroit is further along. I think Detroit's the better team. But there's been no chinks in the armor for the Lions now for quite a few weeks, right? Some kind of challenge feels like it's coming as they played a little down last week and a little too conservative against the Bears. Listen, I don't feel safe with any Lions bets because they're so good this year. But this is one where I will take the Packers, a rare spot where I'll go the other way. Before we get to the Sunday and Monday night games, Lou, I want to bring up a game that I find very interesting. The Atlanta Falcons, the team that you bet on last week and were very disappointing against the Chargers, especially Kirk Cousins, going to Minnesota to face Kirk Cousins' previous team. And in my mind, I don't care about injuries. I don't care about either side of the ball. I mean, of course, Atlanta has to stack up at power ratings wise, and I believe they do. Minnesota's the better team, but Kirk Cousins is going to hear it from the media all week. 3 interceptions, and that one interception was, or was it four? That one interception was atrocious, Lou. I mean, I feel like I could have threw a better pass there. Now he goes back to the place where he previously was, a place he's comfortable at a 1 o'clock slot. I could only look at Atlanta to respond after that pitiful performance, especially Kirk last week. I think Kirk plays much better this week. As some, media heads like Mina Kimes on ESPN is calling for his head, put in the rookie. Kirk Cousins isn't done just yet, and I think this might be the spot to bet on him. What do you got in this game, Lou?
Well, I really don't have a lot. I would tend to, I'm going to tend to start to listen to you a little bit on some of these things since you're running white hot. I like the Cousins angle here a lot, especially these kinds of angles in the NFL, but I like it a little bit better if I got teams that are somewhat on par. I don't see any par in these teams, unfortunately. Yeah, Atlanta's offense is 13th ranked and decent, but Kirk Cousins' best friend is Jameis Winston. Jameis just got on Kirk Cousins' mailing list for Christmas because all the heat's on Jameis now, and they forgot that Cousins really gagged that game up. And it's hard, you can sometimes blame the team, but this was a real tough one for Cousins. I struggle to think, as a guy I've been really backing all for a long time, but the team is in the bottom 5 in special teams. They're 23rd in defense. They're -6 in turnovers. Minnesota's +5 in turnovers. Playing at home, number 1 ranked defense. This is not a game. I like to look at dogs, but and just with what happened with Atlanta last week with me, I'm ready to take a rest from Atlanta for a week and maybe watch what happens in this one.
Yeah, I certainly don't blame you there. I make this one 3.5, so the fact that it moved up to 5 is just a little too much for me. I think the Falcons scratch and claw on this one, as conceivably they could easily lose the NFC South to the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? And then that certainly doesn't guarantee a wild card spot to them if they proceed in this way.
And that's a Gamblu.com client hold is +340 Tampa on the division. And that division is not over. That division is very much in play.
Very much in play. And we're seeing Carolina getting better. The years to come, the NFC South might be a lot better to watch, at least on us, for our sake. Okay, let's move on to the Sunday night game. Another very interesting game, a divisional game between the LA Chargers, who escaped Atlanta with a nice win and cover. And now they go back across into the Midwest to face Kansas City. They're, of course, rival and division foe. The spread in this one is +4 for the Chargers on the road, which is to be expected. But obviously, in previous years, Lou, that was a much bigger spread, right? I mean, the Chargers were a very legitimate underdog in these spots. Not so much anymore. Jim Harbaugh changing this program around. What I noticed, even in that win, Lou, even though I don't know if they fully deserved to win that game, they just took advantage of Kirk Cousins' mistakes. But they don't make as many mistakes, right? And you got Kansas City. Now, Kansas City is getting also very criticized for their close wins, right? They're like historically close margins for a team with as good of a record as they have. This one's really tough for me, Lou, because I want to support the Chargers. I love what they're doing right now. I love how they're showing up every game, and they have the defense to at least limit Kansas City, who's already been limited in a lot of games this season by less talented defenses. But, the Chiefs tend to respond at this time of year, December, going into the playoffs. So I don't feel as secure in that. I should also mention that the total is 43 to 42.5 on this one, Lou. What do you see here?
I see a tight, competitive division game. These are games where I love to take a look at that road dog. In this case, road dog Chargers 8-4 against the spread this year, +11 in turnover ratio. Those two go hand in hand. It's rolling for them. And you say they don't make mistakes. That's Harbaugh. They don't make mistakes on offense, and they make you make mistakes on defense because they don't let you get behind them, and you got to matriculate down the whole field. Now, Kansas City knows that game. I see this as really tight and competitive. Kansas City 5-7 against the spread. And so the general flavor is up on the Chargers, and Kansas City's floundering a little bit, just barely finding ways to win, yet they hold home court for the AFC. They're 9-1 and have everything to play for. This is Kansas City or pass for me. I'm going to be quiet. Hope that line continues to contract, and at 3.5 or 3, I jump all over Kansas City as a home team here.
That's a really good point. You might be able to get on both sides here very comfortably. Especially, I mean, would you be interested in maybe like a tease up to a 10 for the Chargers, something like that, and then maybe expecting that it moves down? Then you got a 3 on Kansas City and a 10 on the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm playing pretty speculative there, and I'll get my release this week is somewhat speculative, and so we'll wait and just be speculative once today.
Gotcha. I will say too,
Tuesday.
I will say too that I lean to the under in this one. I expect this to be a defensive battle. Kansas City is probably going to be cold, dark. Obviously, this is a night game, so
we don't have much weather this week. I'm so dismayed. There's nothing. Yeah. I love to get on a game early and then watch the weather try and dictate further compression on the total, providing me more advantage. That's the blueprint every week. This week, there's no weather for me to execute on.
Yeah, I must say, Sunday night, that Bills game, blizzard, wind, they covered, which put the contest in my pocket. That was one of the better football experiences, like watches I've ever had in my, just home with the family watching. I love a snow game, but especially when it goes your way.
We had that perfect. That was 35-10. And we had under 46.5 in parlays where we had bought the number up, and we had over 42.5 in parlays that we had bought up, and we got dumb lucky, and I don't mind saying it because if I could say it every week, I'd yell it from the highest mountaintop.
Oh, absolutely. Love to hit that middle. And I must say the AFC West, just finishing off this conversation about Sunday Night Football, this is becoming a much more interesting division. The Raiders still catching up, but you got Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh, 2 winning coaches, changing this division. The Broncos, pulled out a win last night in a crazy game too. So this division is getting really interesting. Hey, Raiders, catch up, will you? For the Vegas fans, at least.
Yeah, but at least it gives you hope that you can do it in a year. Right. How smart were we? Who saw Denver? I will say this. I do have Bo Nix 10-1 to win Rookie of the Year.
I love that.
But it was a recreational bet. It's not that I handicapped it. It was Peyton. When Marino hired, when Shula hired Marino, you knew. When Peyton hired this kid, you just knew.
There's some very Drew Brees like passes last night from Bo Nix. Just from the eye test, Lou, I saw some really weird similarities going on there, and he looked very confident the way that he was slinging that ball.
Oh, strong arm too. The guy got a cannon. Holy moly!
He really does. All right. Well, the last game, unfortunately, folks. I mean, it's a game. It's a game you can bet on. I'm probably not going to have a bet on this game because it's not quite as it's just not quite as interesting. I don't see not as much of an edge here. But I'll let Lou talk more about this one if he has a stance on it. The Cincinnati Bengals traveling to AT&T Stadium to take on the Dallas Cowboys, who are now off a few wins. Dallas saying they're playing for the playoffs. I guess maybe Cincinnati is still claiming that too, but sure as hell looks like some players might be quitting on Cincinnati a little bit. Joe Burrow kind of calling out his roster saying, we'll see who wants to stay with this team or not. Cincinnati is is catching 5. I mean, they're 5.5 to 5-point favorites on the road here at Dallas, and Dallas still wants to win. And against the Cincinnati defense, Lou, can even the Cowboys and Cooper Rush have a great game? I mean, they did against the Giants, and that's a divisional game. They certainly did enough. So I lean to Dallas. Probably not going to touch this one because I don't know where the motivation anymore is coming from Cincinnati. I know Joe Burrow is going to bring it, but I don't know if I trust that roster. At least Dallas is putting forth good effort here. So lean the home dog for me, but nothing strong.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I can trust Dallas, to be honest with you. When I see a team that's 30th against the run on defense, and when I see a team on offense that rushes the ball 30th out of 32, there ain't no toughness in that team. There's no grit. There's no fire. And yeah, maybe smoke and mirrors against the Giants are a division team. They could come up with something. But what sticks out here is that there's Cincinnati's 6th ranked offense and their defense is 29th, but the Dallas defense is 24th. Dallas defense 27th. So these are 3 putrid platoons, but Burrow and that Cincinnati offense can score. So I don't know that I agree with the move from 45 to 49 and a half in the total as much as I think that Cincinnati goes over their total on Dallas. I think that's where I would look in this game, but it's not a playoff game. It's not going to help me prepare for a wild card weekend, and that's where my mind frame in December starts to kind of begin to go.
Yeah, you're probably going to pay for what, 27 and a half, 28. That's probably where the total is for Cincinnati with a total that high of around 50. So, plenty of points, but Cincinnati has been doing that. Joe Burrow has been putting up a lot of yards and touchdowns for the Bengals despite their losses week to week. So that's a good angle to look for in this game. Hell, I wouldn't mind a Dallas over or the whole game over myself. But I mean, I understand the line movement, but that is quite a lot of points at this point. On 5.5 points up from where it originally was. That is an assertive move, to say the least. Lou, I got to ask you at the end of our show here, just are there any other bets or any other angles that you want to tell the audience about?
Yeah, I haven't put my neck on the line with a release, and I'll make it quick. I'm going to use Arizona, Seattle. The current number, anywhere you look, is 44 and a half, and that's still enough. That it started 46 a week ago, and the move to 44 and a half, I agree with. Division, familiarity. Seattle needs to run the ball to hide their defense, and even though Arizona has a potent offense, their defense is pretty good and matches up well to a Seattle offense that can be a little bit inconsistent, I'll say. So this is division, familiarity. I'm not getting weather and I'm not getting outside, which makes me a little nervous, but I think I'm still giving the best of the number under Seattle and Arizona 44 and a half. That's what the number is today right here.
Yep, and I'll say this about that bet. I agree with you on the angle on the under. I also just want to tell the audience in my notes over, I have a little asterisk that Seattle and Arizona are 2 of the most unpredictable teams in the NFL. To me, I don't know which version of them is showing up every week, right? And that's kind of on offense and defense. We just see a lot of inconsistency from those 2 teams. They go on little runs, then they kind of regret. Seattle barely deserved to win that game against the Jets either. That was another miracle win for me, by the way.
And it was the sandwich game. They played 3 weeks ago. So it was just the Jets in between. That's even more familiarity. I mean, they still remember the other guy's odor and everything. So that they're going to jump right back to familiarity. I see, 22-20.
That's true. These 2 teams played, 4 weeks ago? It's going to be 4 weeks from this Sunday, I think. So
inside 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
It was a sandwich. It was a Jet sandwich for Seattle.
Well, you heard it here first. Lou just gave away the under in that game between Seattle and Arizona. I'm going to be on Green Bay plus 3.5 on Thursday Night Football. Thursday Night Football this year somehow has done me very well. Thursday Night Football, I often avoid.
And the games are good.
But the games are very good. Yeah, the games are a lot better this year, too. So you got 2 plays there, hopefully a lot of leans and great information on top of that as well. Join us here every single week on Clubhouse TV, brought to you by sportsbet.io. Check out all the betting options over there at sportsbet.io, and check out Lou Finicaro on X at Gamblu and also gamblu.com. Check me out at Farley Bets on X. We'll see you all next week for week 15. Good luck, and always bet cautiously out there in this crazy industry. See you all later.